Hello, 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 hello. You say goodbye. Sorry. Once upon a time, there was a dean named Kelly Castle who came here to speak to a group of incoming students. Ooh, feedbacky, feedbacky. Is that better? Can you still hear me? And on her head, she had a pair of glasses that she was going to utilize to help her read the notes she had in front of her. And when she took them off, she realized that they were, in fact, her sunglasses. This time, I'm going to be super cool and wear them both. No, I'm not. Just kidding. Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Kelly Castle. I'm the Dean of Students here at Victoria. Are you excited? Yes. Are you nervous? Those come together. Don't worry. We're going to try to make it so that over the course of this week, your enthusiasm goes up and your nervous goes down, even if you have a little bit of nervous still trickling in. So to begin, many of you will know that our country has gone through radical transformation over the past few years to acknowledge and represent the issues and mistakes made with respect to our Indigenous people. I'd like to begin by opening with a land acknowledgement. To open this orientation, we would like to formally acknowledge the sacred land on which Victoria University operates. It has been a site of human activity for 15,000 years. This land is the territory of the Huron-Wendat and Petun First Nations, the Seneca, and most recently the Mississaugas of the Credit River. The territory was the subject of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Iroquois Confederacy and the Confederacy of the Ojibwe and Allied Nations. It was to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. Today, the meeting place of Toronto is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to study, live, love, and work in the community on their territory. Thank you. This afternoon, you will be hearing from two offices for student life and services on our campus, two excellent, wonderful students, a coordinator from the Sexual Violence Prevention and Support Center at U of T, and then after that we'll have a panel. The panel, this is the first time we've done the panel. What we find usually with these welcoming remarks is that students have lots of questions, but it takes a little while for them to percolate. So somebody speaks, and then you say, are there any questions? And nobody asks any questions. And then afterward, we're inundated with questions that actually have sort of come to mind. So what we will do today is have a few speakers, and then after that we'll have a short panel, and we will have some questions. I'll be moderating it. We'll ask some questions of the panelists, and also you'll have a chance to do that as well. Everyone who speaks will be on the panel, as well as our new learning strategist, Megan, who will be here to help you with questions around that. So without further ado, I want to tell you, by the way, one question that's going to be on the panel is, what was something adventurous or risky you've done? I would like you to know that I am a fashion maven, and the risky thing I have done today, it's Labor Day. Those are white pants. We're going to begin with Yvette Ali, our fabulous, wonderful registrar.
Thank you, Kelly. Can everybody hear me okay? Yep. Well, welcome to Victoria College. We are thrilled to have you joining our community. So tell me, are you having fun at orientation so far? Perfect. So as Kelly mentioned, my name is Yvette Ali, and I am the registrar of this fine college. One of the things that I've realized is that new students often don't know what the registrar's office does. And sometimes they're a little nervous about approaching us. So I found this puzzling, and after talking to a few students, I realized it's because they think that we're like a principal's office. And we're absolutely, we could not be more different. We don't judge students. We don't have the power to punish. Our role is simple. It's to support and to guide students, to help them in reaching their goals and to have a wonderful university experience. So that's our role at the registrar's office. The staff in our office have a lot of experience with matters pertaining to the Faculty of Arts and Science, the rules, the regulations, all the resources on campus. We offer objective, personalized advice and can help you, students, in terms of exploring your options. So typically, students come to us with one of three types of concerns. academic concerns, concerns about their finances, or any other personal matter that is affecting them in their ability to study or to fulfill their obligations at university. I've spoken to a few students over the year who have said to me, it feels like we in the registrar's office, their academic advisors, kind of like their coach on all matters academic. So there are three lovely women on this slide, and they're the people you're likely going to interact with when you phone or you walk into our office. So Alex and Joanna are information officers, and Bernice is our assistant information officer. And they have a wealth of knowledge and can answer all those questions you might have about ACORN and your OSAP and all those good things. For more complicated questions or more in-depth conversations, they will refer you to one of our 4 academic advisors. And we, the academic advisors, are available for phone appointments, Skype appointments. We also have drop-in spots available at certain times of the week. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and as I say, we do Skype appointments as well. We have something called the Vic e-News. Please don't let it go into your email trash. It has really important and timely information about upcoming events and resources available for you. Now, I know some of you here today are from other faculties like music, phys ed, engineering. If you're from one of those faculties, your faculty registrar office can offer you the same sorts of support that we can here at Vic, so you should go to that office. That being said, some of what I'm going to share with you today will pertain to you as well. So you have a general idea of what we do. So what sorts of questions do we field? I wanted to take a few moments to go through these. So I just got back my first test and I got a 50%, the lowest grade I've ever gotten. What do I do now? I'm halfway through the term and spent almost all of my OSAP. What do I do? I missed my exam or term test. What are the next steps for me? How do I forfeit or should I forfeit my IB, AP credits? How do the transfer credits work? I can't get into courses. What are my options? What programs should I be thinking about choosing? I'm really stressed about school. I'm super anxious going into an exam. Yikes, science is not for me. Maybe that's why you're stressed in school. I know it would be why I would be stressed. Help, I have writer's block. There's been a death in my family. I might need to take some time off. The prof said I had an academic offense. What does that mean? What do I do next? How does what I'm studying relate to my future plans, my careers? Am I choosing the right things for my career trajectory? What scholarships can I apply for? I'm having trouble studying. I'm having difficulty concentrating with my time management, dealing with multiple choice. I'd like to study abroad or do a term abroad. What is available for me? I want to apply to grad school. What sorts of things do I need to start thinking about and preparing? I'd like to take a course at another university. Is that even possible? How does that work? My grade is wrong. What do I need to do? So this is not a comprehensive list, but this is just to give you a flavor, this type of thing students would come to our office to ask. I would say the majority of the time we can answer the questions. Occasionally we may need to refer you to another office for more in-depth conversations. So for instance, sometimes we have complex questions about OSAP, we refer you to enrollment services. If you need program exceptions for a program you're enrolled in, we might refer you to the academic department. But here's the thing you need to remember. The registrar's office is always a good place to start. So I wanted you to get off to a really great start, and I wanted to give you a few of my tips for success. Well, I say mine, but it's not really mine. It's just things that when I talk to students over the years, this is what they say they wish someone had told them, if only they had known. So when we encounter students in the registrar's office in first year, like you are, who are struggling academically, what do you think is the number one reason they tell us they're in this situation? Anybody? Good. Absolutely. In fact, I think you might have a future career as a registrar. The number one reason for them falling behind is that they just did not start work early enough, and they didn't stay on top of their work. So that's a really important lesson. So tip number one, get ahead of the game. And there are lots of things you need to think about and do to get ahead of the game. So I'm going to share these with you now. So again, being proactive is important, and start now because it's going to be harder to catch up. One of the big differences between high school and university is that you're going to be expected to manage your time and do more independent work. So set your schedule, stick to it. A good rule of thumb is that you should spend at least 2 to 3 hours studying for each hour you spend in class or tutorials. When I say 2 to 3 hours studying, that includes reading, doing assignments, actually studying, visiting the writing center, being at group study sessions, and so forth. One of the things that I recommend is taking your timetable up a notch. So you can see your timetable on Acorn. Why not change that timetable into a Life at U of T type timetable? So put on it things like time for commuting, time for extracurricular, time for studying. My recommendation, and there's actually a lot of research that supports this, is that once you have your classes, the next thing you should put on your schedule is your extracurricular and your time for relaxation, and then put your time for studying. A lot of students that I meet, they just assume every time they're not in class, for the rest of the time they're going to be studying. And that's not a realistic expectation, and then that sort of sets them up for a schedule that they can't meet. So that's one way to get ahead of the game. The other way is to be honest with yourself. You know your strengths and your weaknesses. Well, not weaknesses, but areas where you need a little bit of improvement. So maybe it is time management. Maybe you have trouble starting to write an essay. There's a lot of great resources out there to help you, and you should really be seeking them out. And if you can't find them, or if you need help to find them, please contact us at the registrar's office. Probably most of you will be starting classes this week. And you'll notice on your very first day of class, your instructor is going to give you a course syllabus. That is the instructor's contract with you. It sets out the expectations for the course, what readings, when the exam will be, what the tests are worth, what the assignments are worth. I think a really smart thing to do that I've seen students do is they collect all the syllabi from each of their courses, lay it out, and they look at when each assignment's due, when each test is going to happen, so that they can plan their time accordingly. So remember, don't take time to look at that syllabus. It is important. There are things on there as well that you need to pay attention to. So like, what's the late policy? There's some courses where the instructor will not accept late work. So something to pay attention to. The other thing, and my colleague, Dean Kelly Castle, will roll her eyes right now, but I'm going to say it because it is important. Dates and rules matter. So make sure to take time to review the academic calendar. It outlines the rules. I know, trust me, it is not the most riveting reading. I concur on that. But at least familiarize, just take a look and see what's in there. There's also the sessional dates. That's very important. I recommend you put those sessional dates on your phone or in your calendar. And just a quick reminder that it's not too late for you to add or drop courses. If you don't know when the deadline is, let's check the sessional dates. My other tip is to pursue what you love and what you're good at. Many of you are coming here today with very specific plans in mind. You want to be a doctor, lawyer, teacher, whatever the case may be. And you're taking academic programs to lead you to that destination. Some of you are going to follow that path, but I can tell you that for many of you, you will not. You'll decide, maybe I thought I was interested in this, but now I'm realizing there's a lot of other really great things I could be doing. And that's totally okay. It's definitely all right. Just take the time and be kind to yourself and recalibrate what you need to do. Reflect on what you enjoy doing the most. Find your gifts and pursue that. I've met many students who've been so successful, came in here and they're like, I really wanted to be a lawyer, and they left with a degree that is in something that is totally different and have gone on to very successful careers. A student told me once that her secret to success was figuring out what she loved to do and finding a way to get paid for it. My next tip is stay positive, and this is going to be really important for you in the first month. The transition to university is really very exciting. It could also be a bit challenging. You may have been in the top 20% of your class at high school, but just remember, everybody around you was in the top 20% of their class at high school, so the bar has just risen a little bit. The expectations for how you study and your approach to work has also changed. It's going to take you time to figure out exactly what your profs want. And you don't have your parents or your teachers looking over your shoulder to say, you need to be doing this now. The responsibility is now on you. It's not that your professors don't care. It's that they expect you to come to them when you need help. So if they don't hear from you, they assume everything's okay. Many students will see their grades go down on average of 10% for their first few assignments. As I say, stay positive, don't be discouraged. Often their grades will rebound. It's just going to take you a little time to figure out, one, either what support you need, or two, just figuring out what it is the instructor has for you. What are their expectations? My other tip is to use the team. So here's an analogy that I'd like to use. I want you to think of yourself as an Olympic athlete that's at the top of your sport. So just imagine, say, Usain Bolt. I mean, we think of him as a fabulous individual, and he is. He's got some fantastic natural talents. But he's great not just because of that. He's great because he's got a team of people supporting him. He's got physiotherapists, he's got a coach, he's got a massage therapist, nutritionist, he's got peers he goes running with. So think about your team at university. Who is the team that's going to support you? I meet students often who tell me, who may be struggling academically, and what they say to me is, I just need to study harder. That might be true, or maybe they just need a little guidance and support. Maybe the way they're studying and the way they're approaching their work isn't the best way for them. So using your team can help you figure out what's going to work best for you to reach your goals. My final tip is to enrich your experience. We really want you to have an enjoyable time here at university. We do want you to learn a lot, but we want you to have fun too. And that means we want you to take advantage of classroom opportunities and co-curricular activities. There's service learning, there's study abroad, research projects, athletics, student government, clubs galore. Not only will these things make your time here more enjoyable, but there's good research that supports that students who are actively engaged do better at school. And bonus, it's a great thing to put on your resume. And it's, of course, a wonderful way to make friends. So I just want to wrap up by saying there are a range of wonderful resources available to help you. First, at VIC, we have the academic advisors in the Registrar's office, and our learning strategist, Megan just stand up and wave. She'll be on our panel later, and she'll be doing a transition session tomorrow, gearing up for academic success, and it's at 12:10, so you may see Megan there. We also have a range of tutors who specialize in supporting students in first year, chemistry, physics, and math tutors. We have a writing center, which is a wonderful resource because you can bring your paper in draft format and share it with the writing instructor to get feedback. There's also the personal librarian service. So we have a library here, the Pratt Library. It's a wonderful library. And with this service, students can go to them, be matched with a librarian, and that person will help them find the research materials they need for their essays. So it's a wonderful service. There's also the Writing Plus academic skills workshops as well. There's a whole host of other services available at U of T. I'm not going to go through the list. You can take a little peruse while I chat. And just to let you know, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a bunch more services available there at U of T for help. As I say, we're at the Registrar's office is always a good place to come and start the conversation if you need help or support. And we're very familiar with all the services available, and we can help direct you in the right, send you in the right direction. So with that, I'm going to turn things over back to Kelly.
Thank you, Yvette. Clearly, she's a better student than I was. I think deadlines are important. You often miss what you think is important. I'm going to begin by introducing some of the people in my office. Krista Steeves, who is the Associate Dean of Students, who is not currently present, but is always present in our office and helping. Scott Johnson, who's the Assistant Dean of Student Life. Brigitte Petro, who is the Assistant Dean of International and Upper Year Students. Bergie's here. Bergie. She really likes it when I embarrass her. Yeah, there we go. Shania Balachandran, who's the Residence Life Coordinator and who's organizing all of the lovely dons for us. Shani here? Nope. Yeah. Wanda Hughes-Jones, who is the Residence Coordinator and generally the savior of our whole office. Megan Junk, who is the executive assistant for me. Thanks, sweet God. Saving my sorry ass self on a regular basis. And also the Ideas for the World coordinator, a program I'll tell you a little bit more about in a moment. And Sabrina Bellotta, who is the orientation coordinator. Many of you will have already met her. Is Sabrina here? No. Where are my peeps? So anyway, all of those people, oh, I don't know how to click. Do we have click power? Hit enter? Hmm. Sweet. So what does our office do? Our office is, if you look it up in the VIC descriptions, it will say that our office is in charge of student life, which is intentionally broad and amorphous because it's not really all that easy to compartmentalize. It's not that easy to compartmentalize for you, and so the services that respond to you can't be really, really isolated poles. Academic, home, financial, social, medical, etc. It's all intertwined. Difficulties that you have that are academic will affect you socially and emotionally, medically sometimes. Difficulties that you have medically and emotionally might affect you academically, etc. Students who are coming out for the first time coming to university, students who are dealing with grief, students who have eating disorders, financial issues, medical problems, etc. It affects the whole person, and we all know that. As adults, we know that. Adults, old adults. Well, not that old. Little old. So if you need help with anything, you can come and talk to us. We all work together. We have residents and commuter dons, my broad staff, the registrar and her staff, the librarian, the principal, the bursar, even the president are all happy to talk to you about almost anything. Okay, now, brace yourself for a dean rant. Oddly, I have a couple of things to say about being cool. It can be the case that when you look around, you think everyone is cool. It's kind of true. People here, I mean, the students who are here have tons of friends and have really found their homes at Vic, and they've situated themselves in a way that helps them go forward and succeed and all of those things. And they look like they're having fun and they look like they're doing well, and that's all more or less true. Everyone seems like they're fitting in. All the other people here seem like they're having a smooth landing at university. Upper years have it all together. Everyone is like oozing with cool, which kind of makes cool sound gross, but whatevs. Oh, whatevs, by the way, is a saying on the worldwide interweb. Whatevs. Anyway, the real truth is that no one is cool. Cool is an elusive thing that we sometimes chase even though it moves, and social media at university is a problem. You heard it here first. Social media at university is a problem. It's a giant pool of people issuing their own press releases, writing their own narratives that are oversculpted and that for some reason other people believe. Be cautious with it. It is actually not the case that the people who come up on Facebook or whatever else is better, Instagram, whatever, it's not the case that what they say on their homepage or on their face page is necessarily true. We see a lot of students who come in to see us who say, you know, yeah, I'm a varsity athlete, yeah, I was on the debating team, yeah, I'm super cool, yeah, all that stuff. But they're having serious difficulties academically and emotionally and personally. So just, you know, I know it sounds grandma, but be cautious. No one's cool except me. What you are all for sure is deserving. And even if every single one of you did well in high school, you certainly did well enough to get here. And even though you might sometimes doubt that you're deserving and good enough to be here, you really must believe that. It's part of why we launched the Ask, Listen, Talk campaign 3 years ago. The Ask, Listen, Talk campaign addresses issues of mental health, which many of you will have heard lots about in terms of higher education and universities across the country. Suicidality rates, anxiety rates, all of those sorts of things are real flags for us in university, and we want to be able to help you earlier rather than later with any problems that arise like that. We also want to encourage you to help each other and yourselves. So part of the Ask, Listen, Talk campaign is around that. We also deal with sexual misconduct, which you'll hear more about from Paula Lamb, who's here from the Sexual Violence Support and Prevention Center at U of T. And we also talk about alcohol and other substance abuses here at U of T. So go online and please read some of it if you can. And if you don't read it now, which 99% of you won't do, when something happens, remember that it's there. Because it's not just there with numbers and places to go, it's also there with advice on how to help each other. So if you're a bystander, if you have a friend who's dealing with something, if a friend isn't going to breakfast, if you have a classmate who's not going to lectures, if your roommate seems withdrawn, any of those sorts of things, you can go online and find not only how to word the things that you want to say and ask, but places you can go to get help. U of T, you're lucky to be here for that purpose. U of T is a huge place with loads of resources and services, and Vic is kind of your home away from home for that. What we usually say is that you're in a small community in a bigger place, and that actually winds up being true, especially for the resources, because in Toronto, at U of T, in Ontario, in the country, you're sort of at the heart of all of the best resources you could possibly imagine, so please do avail yourselves of them. One thing I have said before to students, and I've heard back again later, is that a lot of students come here, for instance, having seen a guidance counselor or a psychologist or a psychiatrist in high school, and they come here and say, I'm going off my meds, I don't need them anymore, I want a fresh start, I'm going at it without all that stuff. And that's valiant, but it's not smart. It's smarter to come here and expect that you might have a problem and then not have it, but have set yourself up in case you do, than it is to come here and say, I'm not going to have a problem. So please do make sure you at least connect with somebody. It almost doesn't matter who. It almost doesn't matter whether you talk to somebody in my office, somebody in the registrar's office, a counselor, a Dawn, somebody who you feel will be able to connect you to help if you need it. Even if you don't wind up needing it, making that connection first is good. The other thing is that there's sort of a calendar of issues because everybody comes here and doesn't realize what it's all about until a few weeks in. And so around October 12th, we start getting lineups and people start coming. So if you can go now and set yourself up with somebody to see, that is probably a good idea. Get involved. So the other thing that follows from the merging of all of these things, the idea that all of this stuff is interwoven, is that you really need to get engaged in university. Not married, but engaged with what you're doing. It's well documented that you'll do better academically. You actually get higher marks. I think, Yvette, is it 6% or something like that? You get higher marks if the more involved you are, it goes up 1% with every week extra you spend doing something engaged in university. Sounds plausible. I make up shit all the time. Sometimes I swear inappropriately. Anyway, it is well documented. I don't know how. It's well documented that you will be more successful academically if you're more engaged in the university. And that means intentionally involving yourself in the life of the college and in the university. So they don't actually measure student engagement. There's a huge survey called the National Survey on Student Engagement. They don't measure that by how many clubs or societies you're involved in, because lots of people are involved in lots of clubs and societies, but only sort of peripherally. They measure it by the number of hours you spend thinking about or involving yourself in something to do with the university outside of the classroom. Straight up number of hours. So however much time you spend really connected to the university, you'll do better academically. You also don't have to be outgoing or super friendly or super social to be able to get involved. We hear that all the time. I think there's an article in the Strand right now in the Vic newspaper talking about some of the challenges we face, and I'm happy to see that kind of thing. It is true. It's difficult. You get here, and it looks like everybody else is so super social, and you feel like you're not. And I am a big E extrovert. Big E extrovert. And I still feel when I go into things like that are raw, and everybody's doing it, I'm like a little overwhelmed. So if I am, there are for sure half of you are, because I'm as big E as it gets. And so it really is important not only to know that if you are shy or you're anxious or nervous about trying to fit in, it's easy to do stuff. You just have to figure out a way of doing it more intentionally. And if you're not, then it's on you to help somebody who is. It's on you to look over and see somebody who's here at orientation week, who's just got here to the country 2 weeks ago. Sorry, I'm having another rant. Who just got here 2 weeks ago, who hasn't been here before, who's 17 years old, whose parents speak a different language, who doesn't actually have any resources and supports here. It's on you to go and find that person sitting under the tree and say hello. It's on you. That's all I have to say about that. My glasses go on again every time I stop ranting. Sorry. Were any of you here for Open Vic? I think I kept doing that during Open Vic too. I don't know my problem. I'm just getting old and I can't see. Slide 6. One way to get involved, so there are all kinds of ways to get involved. You can do it through your department, politics, English, math, biochem, physics, philosophy, anything. There are departmental organizations and clubs and societies all the way through the university. There are also tons and tons of clubs and societies, both at Vic and at U of T. So if you really want to get involved in like the Mystery Novel Appreciation Club, which there is, but it's not among the hundreds of clubs and societies here, then this is the place to start it. We actually have a special thing called the Special Projects, Student Projects. Changed. Like 6 years ago, shut up. I know, whatever. The 80s were my decade. I can't discuss anymore. And I was so cool then. There are lots of ways to get involved, and we actually have a special fund for students who want to start up something that they haven't yet found at the university. So please do ask anybody, and especially go to the VUSAC office, the Victoria University Students Administrative Council, which is the student government here. They're fantastic, and they're very, very keen on having new students come in and try to get involved and figure out new things that we can start. So please do see them, and see Sabrina, who's the orientation coordinator. You'll see her running around all week about ways of getting involved. There are also other ways to get involved through our office. For international students, you can please go and see Brigitte Petro. She's the assistant dean who helps out with international students. And as I was alluding to before, there are sometimes other challenges: new country, family further away, snow, health services that are different to negotiate, shopping. I mean, there are lots of different things that are just, you're in a different city, certainly different country, you'll have to figure out. Also, for career and job help, you can go and see Brigitte. There's a lot of stuff that's changed over the years with thinking around careers and jobs. And so students, if you ask them, what job do you think, could you envision yourself doing? You know, like I ask my kids, and, you know, my 12-year-old is like, Mom. My 8-year-old is like, micromanaging. He actually said that to me. It's really funny. When people envision themselves doing something with their future, they have like 7 things they think of: doctor, lawyer, teacher. You know, there are all those things. It's not like I ever in a million years doing my PhD in philosophy thought I want to be the dean of students. In fact, university administration would have been the last thing on the planet I would have considered. But then it came together. I worked in rape crisis centers and shelters, and while I was doing graduate work, and I did a whole bunch of different things, and then it turned out that actually working in high risk and crisis and student life and academics was a nice mix for me. So do a lot of different things, but career advising now is not about just figuring out your aptitude and matching you to one of the 7 careers that are out there. Career advising now is much more about sorting through your interests and abilities and how those things come together. So please take that seriously and start early. It doesn't mean you commit to anything. Most of the time, my experience of it is, we will have a goal. You'll think, that's what I want to do. And then on your way there, a door will open and you'll turn. And then on your way there, a door will open and you'll turn. So you can't get there without having goals, but you won't wind up necessarily going to the same place you thought you were going to by the end of it. That's my deep thought glasses back on. Commuter students. It's also slightly more challenging to get involved if you're a commuter student. Put up your hand if you're a commuter. Yes, I love seeing all of you out here. So it is for sure no problem for you to get involved, but you have to put a little bit more of an intentional effort into it. So for resident students, you wake up in the morning and you go across the hall and you're studying physics and they're studying philosophy, and you go have breakfast and you talk about Machiavelli and string theory. But for commuters, those are things, right there. But for commuter students, you don't wake up, you wake up and see your sister or your mom or whatever. You don't have all of those kinds of easily accessible opportunities, so you have to make them. So if you're a commuter, please do that. We have tons of stuff now at Vic. We have a whole commuter student experience package, which includes commuter dawns. We've got lots of them, and they can help you get involved, find out information, find services, resources, etc. Victoria Overnight Study Space. I think I might have told some of you, but we had some great objection to that in the beginning because people said, well, you can't have them studying overnight. They'll fall asleep. I'm like, I'm a dean. Do you think that's my biggest problem, is them sleeping? No. So we have overnight study space, and students love it. It's packed every night. Commuter lounge, commuter programs, commuter meal plan, which is a really great way to meet people. Anyway, for any of that, you can just come into our office, see Krista, see Brigitte, see me, see anybody, and we will help you get connected to it. We are also now in our 8th year of an ever-expanding sort of edgy program. We've had some press about it. You can Google it and find YouTube stuff about it. It's called Ideas for the World. It blends social, academic, and community stuff. We have 3 major events, 2 of which we've already done, the 3rd of which we're starting this year for the first time. One is Minding Our Minds, which is on mental health in higher education and universities. Students come, students are on panels, we have experts from all over the place come in and talk. We've had really well-known famous people come and speak, presidents come to speak, the chancellor, we've had Bob Ray come to speak, we've had just all kinds of really interesting people come and speak. We're also having a panel discussion and breakout sessions and workshops and stuff on sexual violence and gender on campus. So as you know, questions of inclusivity and questions, very important questions in the evolution of our kindness with respect to trans and other students are coming to the fore. And for some of us who are old, these are things that are challenges for us that we need to take. And we need to start to change the way we think about this and what we do with respect to that. And we're having the first ever conference. We suggested it to a whole bunch of other people. It's a little bit controversial. And the senior management at Vic, when it was presented to them, everyone said, yes, of course, we must do this. So we will be doing that for the first year this year. If you have any interest in getting involved, please let us know. We will be taking our lead from lots of people. And the 3rd is Campus Reconciliations First Listenings. Last year was the first year we did this. It was asking some questions after the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendations with respect to Indigenous people in Canada. We focused largely on some of the major areas with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission recommendations on spirituality, on education, and on language, preservation, and continuity. We will have that again this year, so anybody who's interested in those issues can come and see us. There's tons of opportunity for everybody. Speaking opportunities, arranging, if you like to, just planning events, we can, certainly anybody can help. We also have, for all students, including first-year students, lunch sessions that start in 2 weeks. They run once a week for 5 weeks over lunch, 12 to 2. Free hot lunch is provided for everybody. It's interdisciplinary. There are no grades. There are no assignments. It's fun. You can be quiet. You can be shy. You can be outspoken. Mostly, it's an opportunity to have a conversation you might not have normally in a classroom. Group of about 20 to 25 people. Short video or presentation by guest lecturers or other professionals in the field. Again, we've had architects, museum curators, sports people, politicians, the chief of police, all kinds of people who just come in and talk about their experiences in the world and how that can you know, how the pedal hits the metal with academic thought. What happens when we go out into the real world and start thinking about how what we're doing in biochemistry matters with respect to the pharmaceutical companies, for example. Anyone is allowed to join us. We do have a wait list quickly, so please sign up for that as soon as possible. We also have evening sessions. One's called Humanities for Humanity. This is its 10th anniversary. We've had about 1,500 people go through it. We started it off with people saying that it shouldn't probably happen in universities because we would be inviting people in who weren't supposed to be here, I quote. We go to shelters and community centers, we go to centers for addicts, we go to churches, we go all over the place and recruit people. We've now raised almost $2 million for this program, and students are mentors for people who wouldn't otherwise have access to university. We thought it wasn't going to work at the beginning, and it's now been for me, one of the proudest things I've done in my career. So if you are interested at all in getting involved in ways of actually really getting involved with the community, from an academic lens, these are the things. One's Humanities for Humanity. We work chronologically through the history of ideas, mostly humanities, but some social sciences, English, philosophy, history, etc. And we go through different lectures and break up into small discussion groups that you lead with community members. It's really quite rewarding. We had at the beginning, we sort of thought it was all noblesse oblige and it was students helping people in the community, but now it's pretty clear that it's just as much a benefit for students as it is for people in the community. So if you're interested in any of those things, please do let us know. This year, as I said, Humanities for Humanity, our lunchtime sessions on Wednesday in first term, it is culture and conflict in the media. Questions like, what is a just war? How are messages mediated when we read the newspaper and we watch the news? What are representations and misrepresentations of gender and sexuality in the media, etc. And Thursday is science and society. So questions, again, about pharmaceutical industry, for example, why it's bigger than the entire entertainment industry, rights around HIV disclosure, new drug-resistant strains of TB, and ethical questions around that. So it's those kinds of questions that will be involved in that. And then we also have Forging Your Future in the fall term, which is basically helping you to try to think about your next steps in the near future and in the further, more distant future. In the winter term, we have Theater for Thought, which is the same thing as Humanities for Humanity with people from the community, and they can, woo! And people from the community come in and we have short theater presentations, and then we have the breakout sessions with discussions as well. So that's another opportunity. And we have Social Justice and the Law, questions about whether prayer and religion should be permitted in public schools, foreign policy and national identity, rights around our bodies and ourselves, and one on science and meaning. So we have all kinds of different opportunities. Please do go online and check it out. You can register online, and all of this is also in the Goldring Student Center where our office is. So get involved with the university however you decide to do it, is my general conclusion about all of that. I forgot to put my slides things in here. Right now you really are in the middle of one of the biggest moments of your life, even if you don't know it. You really, truly are. This is it, right here, right now. You don't know it. It's just some blah, blah dean standing at the front of the room, but this is it. You are starting a whole new thing. It's a journey. It's an adventure. It'll be all of the bumps and bruises and all that stuff, but this is it. You're in it. And you might think that the reason that this is the big thing, the big moment, is because you're meeting friends that you might have for the rest of your lives, and that's probably true. And you might think that it's because you're on the cusp of deciding what your career will be, and that's probably true as well. You might think it's because you're moving away from home, or because you're taking difficult courses, or because you're on your way to managing your own financial affairs, and all of that is likely true. But it surprises me sometimes that not very many students realize this is one of the very few moments that you have to be intellectually luxurious. I would love to be able to have the number of hours and the time and the ability to just sit and think about things I hadn't thought about before. That's what you have right now, and you cannot waste it. I know I sound grandma, but it's true. So do it, because I said so. That's all there is to it. You are actually supposed to dwell in the moment here. So treat learning like an end in itself, and not just as a means to getting some job or making money or having some kind of recognition out there in the culture of recognition. Try to do it for the right reasons. And I know you're all smarty pants and that you all had plans to do, to know what you were going to do when you grew up and stuff, but this is a time to pause, both in terms of being intellectually luxurious and in terms of asking yourself the question, not just of what you will be when you finish university, but of who you will be. I'm serious. Think about that question. I know, I'm sorry, I'm so podium, but it's really true. The people that you sit around now are going to be totally morphed people in 4 years. Every single one of you will have had ideas you have shaken, will have beliefs you hold changed, will have different relationships with different people that will make you bigger and better and more understanding and inclusive and smart people. So please take this time to think about all of those things. The motto for Victoria College is studies pass into character. What you study changes who you are, both as an individual and as a person in the world. So congratulations on coming to Vic, where we're really, really happy to have you here.
Sorry. Hello. Hi. Thank you. Oh. Okay, so I was asked a couple of days ago to speak today about like my first year experience. Sorry, let me introduce myself. My name is Yasmin. I am a Dawn this year at Ansley on the first floor, so please come and say hello. But also my eyes are really watery, so I apologize. I don't know what's going on. But actually I do. They're always watery. It's whatever. Okay, but anyways. So I came to U of T. I grew up in Toronto in Etobicoke. And so my first and second year, I was a commuter student. And like I remember doing the application, and I low-key wanted to be at St. Mike's because I heard it was like more fun. So I was like, all right, let me do it. But then Vic seemed like educational and nice, and it was really pretty. So I was like, let me rank it number one, because you have to rank it number one. And then I ended up getting in, which is low-key a huge blessing. Let's just put that out there. But first year, I was always like, I like to call myself like a laid-back keener. So like I remember coming into Frosh being like, okay, I want to make this the best experience I can because I only have a week, and I'm going to befriend everyone I can because this is my opportunity. Everyone else is looking for friends, so am I. I don't know anyone. Let's do it. And that's literally what I did. And honestly, I recommend doing something similar because I met most of my best friends, I'm not even joking, like on the dance floor during Frosh at Scarlet and Gold, and like that for me was such a great experience. But after Frosh, it kind of like dwindles and the hype kind of goes down, and then real school sets in and it's a little scary. And I found that one of my challenges was really, we've been hearing about it, well, I don't know why I gestured at the screen, but we've been hearing about it, how your marks will change from high school to university, and that was something like I kept hearing but didn't think it was going to be a real thing, but honestly it is. So I remember that was my biggest issue in first year, and you have to really just take a step back, like the dean said, like our registrar said, and remember where you are and how much of a privilege it is to be here, and that honestly, if you're passing and you're doing well, that's great in and of itself because you're making it and you're going through it. And another thing I found like to be quite a big challenge was the like mental health idea. Before university, I was lucky not to really experience many like mental health issues, and I didn't really understand what it was. And then first year came along and like things changed, and like second year came along and things changed, and it's something that you have to just remember that everyone goes through. We all have our anxieties, all have our moments of like depression and like things like that, and you shouldn't feel like you're the only one. We have so many resources at Vic, and that's something I didn't use in first year, and that I started using in second year, and it made my life a lot easier. So I'd really, really recommend you guys doing that. Also, in first year, didn't really get too involved, and that, even though, didn't get that involved, but during the UTSU Clubs Fair, I wrote my email down on like every sheet that was possible because, again, I was really trying to get my foot in the door. But then I didn't actually end up joining any of those clubs. I just kind of went to the first meetings and was like, hey, what's going on? And then like didn't do it. But second year, I ended up joining the USAC, the student union here at Vic, and I thought that was a really wonderful opportunity. Again, I think second year was one of my favorite years, and the reason the difference between my first and second year was my involvement. And I really recommend you guys just taking steps to get out of your comfort zone, but at your own pace, because that can make all the difference in your experience here. But yeah, I don't know if anyone has any other questions. I think we'll have like a panel after, and you can ask any of the like leaders or dons or transition mentors or exec, anyone really on campus who's involved, and we would be happy to answer. But yeah, thanks.
Okay. Whew. Hello. My name is Angela, and some of you may have seen me outside telling you to not bring food or drinks in because I work for the theater. By the way, we're looking for people, so if you need a part-time job, grab me. So I am a student in my last year of studies. Congratulations on making it here. I had so much fun during my Frosh week, and I hope that you are very excited for the week ahead. Throughout my time at Victoria College, I've both lived on residence. In fact, I was in Ainsley main floor, great building. And I've been a commuter as well. I've taken both full-time and part-time studies, so I can definitely relate to not only how you're feeling right now, but how you will feel in the upcoming 4 years of your life. Looking back on my first year, I just wanted to talk about 2 pieces of advice that I had wished I'd actually listened to. You've actually heard these 2 pieces of advice in the last 3 speeches, but I'm sorry, bear with me. I'll try to put a human face on it, this one. I was one of those students who came in thinking I knew exactly what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. Namely, I wanted to be a human rights lawyer in the United Nations. I am not currently a human rights lawyer at the United Nations. While I really enjoyed the classes I had, I wish I gave myself permission to explore. I have friends who started in engineering but switched to commerce in their 3rd year. Another friend took mostly life science courses in her 1st year and then realized her true passion was English and is now pursuing a degree at OISE, which is the Studies and Education building. I myself ended up changing my majors and minors in my 3rd year. This is not to say that you won't end up enjoying the types of courses you are doing right now. Besides, I think most of you have already chosen your courses already. But that I wish I took the opportunity to pursue different interests or try new things. Your time is too important, and university is too good of an opportunity to explore it, to spend it doing something you don't like all that much. I took economics in my 1st year, and then there goes my dream of doing IR, so. The second piece of advice that I cannot repeat enough, and that cannot be repeated enough here, is to not be afraid of asking help. I came in at the top of my class in high school, but got diagnosed with a couple of mood disorders in my 2nd year and have really struggled in my last few years to finish my degree. I say this not to discourage you or to scare you, but to tell you that there may be moments in university, which you've heard, that can be frustrating and hard, where you'll have to deal with mental health or financial or family or housing issues, or all of them at once. But there are also a lot of people here whose job it is to listen to you or to provide support. I know it can be very hard to seek help sometimes. It can take a lot of time, resources, and both emotional and physical energy, especially when your mental health isn't the greatest. But I also felt like I wasted a lot of time during my first few years trying to justify whether I needed help or felt guilty or ashamed of it. It was only after I started speaking to friends and acquaintances about my struggles that I started to realize that, number one, everyone has gone through similar things if they've gone through university. And I also got a lot of great referrals for resources that made my life so much easier. For example, did you know that Vic has his own bursary program that doesn't necessarily require OSAP eligibility? Our dean's office has a drop-in counseling and learning strategy, and offers learning strategies. The Factor Inwintosh School of Social Work and the Oise Psychology Clinic offer free therapy to Vic students. Hart House and both of the U of T athletic centers all offer free drop-in classes as well as use of their machines. And sometimes there are free muffins in the Multi-Faith Center if you go on the right afternoon. If you are differently abled or have a mental health diagnosis like I have had, you need to register with accessibility services right now. It was only after I registered with accessibility services that I was able to, access a lot of the resources that I now have. While some of these services were available when I was in first year, which was actually a long time ago, there definitely has been an increase of awareness of these issues, and the university has undergone a lot of changes during the last few years to make sure that students get proper physical and emotional support. My professors and TAs are more aware than they have been in the past. There are programs now at both Vic and in the wider U of T community that I wish I had in first year. So if you don't feel comfortable going to the dean's office, no offense, Kelly, there are also resources in U of T that you can access. I really feel that there is no better time than now to ask for help if you need it. These resources are here for you, so please, please, please start taking advantage of it right now. I personally really believe that if I'd spoken to someone sooner, it would not have taken me this long to graduate, and my university academic experience would have been a lot smoother. So apologies for the serious turn, but I just wanted to let you guys know about a couple things that were super helpful to me during my time here. Have a great time this week, and let me know if you need a part-time job. Thanks.
Sorry, I'm very short. Okay. So, hi everyone. My name is Paula, and I'm the coordinator for the Sexual Violence Prevention and Support Center. And today I'm going to talk to you about building a culture of consent on and off campus. I acknowledge that this topic is a very tough topic to talk about, and it is a serious topic. So if anyone feels like they need to get up, go to the bathroom at any point during the presentation, please feel free to do so. There's also Dawn's here that can also support you if you're feeling like you want to talk with someone. I'm also available afterwards if anyone wants to talk to me afterwards. So I did want to acknowledge the land, that we're on Indigenous land. I know that was already referenced by Kelly earlier, and just to say that it's important to the center when we look at our history and how we're moving forward, that colonization still has impacts on the work that we do here and on the impacts of sexual violence. So who we are, what do we do? Has anyone heard of the Sexual Violence Prevention Support Center before? I'm seeing like maybe 5 people. We are a new center, and so I'm going to share a bit about our services and the new policy at U of T. So because we're a new center, I'm going to walk through a little bit of what we do and how we can support you. We can support anyone who's experienced sexual violence or been impacted by sexual violence. So that could be you have a roommate or you have a friend who's experienced sexual violence and you're wanting to support them and learn how to do that. It can be that you've been impacted yourself and have experienced something. So if you come and see me or another coordinator at the center, we can help you with identifying your needs, thinking through options, that there are always options. Sometimes we think that there's only one thing that we have to do or something that we need to do after we've experienced sexual violence, and there are always options, and I can support you with that. Accessing campus or community counseling, advocacy, and medical services. So what that might look like is if you're looking for counseling, then I can help arrange it for you, whether it's private counseling, whether it's counseling at the campus. If you're looking for free counseling, looking to access your benefits as a student, we are here for you. Arranging for academic, living, work, and any other campus accommodations. So sometimes that might look like doing some advocacy with a professor, talking with them, trying to minimize the amount of times that you have to tell someone your story, and that I can work with the 5 professors if you're looking for an extension or something's going on and you're hoping for an exam deferral. So we can work with you on that. Understanding this university's new policy on sexual violence and sexual harassment and reporting options, whether it's criminal or non-criminal, reporting to the university or looking to report to Toronto Police. I can help support you with that. And exploring self-care strategies and safety planning. So that might look like, what are we going to do next? And if safety is an issue, we can help looking at what kind of plans we can do to keep you safe. And we also do training and education, so workshops like these. So sexual violence, usually when I say what is sexual violence, people normally say sexual abuse, sexual assault, rape, and that is all part of the definition of sexual violence, but there's a lot of different forms of sexual violence that we don't always think about. So sexual harassment, gender-based discrimination, cyber harassment, stalking, these are all different forms of sexual violence. It doesn't have to be physical. Sexual violence, the definition from the Ontario government, is any sexual act or act that is targeting a person's sexuality, gender identity, or gender expression, whether physical or psychological, that is committed, threatened, or attempted against another person without their consent. So it can be threats, you can be worried that something's going to happen, you can come to the center and get support. The university has a new policy that's a standalone policy that's different than the Student Code of Conduct and is unique to U of T. And it came into effect of January 1st of this year. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what this means for you. So who does the policy apply to? It applies to everyone here. It's all members of the U of T community, whether they're students, faculty, or staff. All of you can get service and all of you can get support. If you're looking to make a report, it would be between all incidences between members of the university community, whether they take place on or off campus or online. So if you're going to a party off campus, you're at a bar, or you're texting online, something's going on, and you're experiencing sexual violence, you can come and get support from U of T. You can also access our services regardless of who was involved and when or where the sexual violence took place. So you can come and talk and say, you know, it was someone else that is not part of U of T. It was a partner who goes to another university. It was a family member, has no affiliation with U of T. You can still come and get service and look at academic accommodations or workplace accommodations. We can support you. And it doesn't matter whether it happened yesterday, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we can still support you. So wherever it happened, whenever it happened, we are here for you. How do I access services? So what would happen if you went to the center? So you can call, email, or drop by the center locations to access services. I'll give you some contact information for myself and the center. You don't have to make a report or take legal action in order to access supports and services. So sometimes people feel like if they come, they have to report it to the police or they have to report it to the university, and that's not true. You can come and get support regardless of whether you want to report or not. You have the right to decide what information you share, and you direct the process. So if you come and see me or another coordinator at the center, we will ask you, what is it that you're wanting to do? How can we support you with your goals and what you need? It's not about what I think you should do. It's helping you explore your options, and you don't have to tell me any information you don't want to. If you want to just say, this is what's happened to me and I'm looking for counseling, or I'm looking for an academic accommodation, or I'm not sure what I'm looking for right now, maybe I do want to make a report in the future, I'll be there for you, and you don't have to tell me the name of the person who did this to you, when or where it happened, we can look at supporting you in service. So understanding consent, I'm going to talk briefly about consent because sexual violence is really anything with any sexual act or act of targeting someone's sexuality, gender identity, and gender expression that has no consent. So I'm going to show you a video, and I want you to think about it in terms of what it means for sexual consent. Oh, I think the sound. I think I'm having some technical difficulty with sound. Yeah, you need sound. Oh. Is that, no? It should be. Sorry about this.
Give me one.
Okay, so while we're waiting, I am going to, I'll just talk briefly about consent and we'll kind of come back to this. So you would have received in your orientation packages a blue postcard that talks about consent and looks at what is consent and what does that mean exactly. So consent is voluntary, enthusiastic, continual, active, honest, non-coerced, and aware. So someone is not incapacitated by drugs or alcohol. And when we think about this, that means that consent always needs to be asked. And I like to think of it as enthusiastic because sometimes people will ask me, well, what if they said they wanted to have sex and then they changed their mind? Or what if they seemed unsure but then they later said yes? And we shouldn't be convincing someone to have sex with us or assuming something is happening. It should be enthusiastic and it should be voluntary, and people should be capable and aware and alert based on the decision they're making. So they need to be informed about whatever decision they're making. And so I like this cartoon, which compares it to, we wouldn't think it would be okay to tattoo someone when they're unconscious. So why would we think that that's okay when it comes to sexual activity? And so I think it's really important when we look at sexual consent that we don't take in judgments or misconceptions or myths about sexual assault into our minds, and we think about consent as we would for anything else. Consent would be like asking someone what they want to order at a restaurant, asking them if they want to take a picture with you. Things that you would normally ask someone, we want to think about it as we would want to ask for sexual activity. You want to try? Okay. It's not going. Sorry about this. Okay. Well, you can look it online. It's through, I think it's Blue Seat Studios. It's a police service the UK did, and it just talks about consent.
You want to read it?
Oh.
You want me to read it?
We can read it together.
That'll make it really gorgeous.
I know.
I can just read it out. Do you want me to read it? You can switch it forward. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
Imagine instead of initiating sex.
Hold on. I'm going to go to the front. Okay, we figured it out.
If you're still struggling with consent, just imagine instead of initiating sex, you're making them a cup of tea. You say, hey, would you like a cup of tea? And they go, oh my God, I would love a cup of tea, thank you. Then you know they want a cup of tea. If you say, hey, would you like a cup of tea? And they're like, I'm not really sure. Then you could make them a cup of tea, or not, but be aware they might not drink it. And if they don't drink it, then, and this is the important part, don't make them drink it. Just because you made it doesn't mean you are entitled to watch them drink it. And if they say no thank you, then don't make them tea. At all. Just don't make them tea. Don't make them drink tea. Don't get annoyed at them for not wanting tea. They just don't want tea, okay? They might say, yes, please, that's kind of you. And then when the tea arrives, they actually don't want the tea at all. Sure, that's kind of annoying as you've gone to all the effort of making the tea, but they remain under no obligation to drink the tea. They did want tea, now they don't. Some people change their mind in the time that it takes to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk. And it's okay for people to change their mind. And you are still not entitled to watch them drink it. And if they're unconscious, don't make them tea. Unconscious people don't want tea. And they can't answer the question, do you want tea? Because they're unconscious. Okay, maybe they were conscious when you asked them if they wanted tea. And they said yes. But in the time it took you to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk, they are now unconscious. You should just put the tea down. Make sure the unconscious person is safe. And this is the important part again. Don't make them drink the tea. They said yes then, sure, but unconscious people don't want tea. If someone said yes to tea, started drinking it, and then passed out before they'd finished it, don't keep on pouring it down their throat. Take the tea away. Make sure they're safe, because unconscious people don't want tea. Trust me on this. If someone said yes to tea around your house last Saturday, that doesn't mean they want you to make them tea all the time. They don't want you to come around to their place unexpectedly and make them tea and force them to drink it, going, but you wanted tea last week. Or to wake up to find you pouring tea down their throat, going, but you wanted tea last night. If you can understand how completely ludicrous it is to force people to have tea when they don't want tea, and you're able to understand when people don't want tea, then how hard is it to understand it when it comes to sex? Whether it's tea or sex, consent is everything. And on that note, I'm going to go make myself a cup of tea.
So, thank you, Brigitte, for helping us with the technical difficulties. I'm happy you were able to see that video. And so, as the video shows, it's as simple as tea, thinking about normalizing asking for consent. Sometimes people think it's really hard to ask for consent when it comes to sexual activity, and it doesn't have to be. It can be really easy when you look at asking for it, looking at body language, thinking about the words that we use is really important. And when we think about the legal definition of consent, it's that voluntary agreement. They're actively and willingly giving consent to sexual activity. And some of I'm going to read this off just because some of these scenarios weren't mentioned in the T video, but looking at how consent is never assumed or implied, is not silence or the absence of no, cannot be given if someone is incapacitated by alcohol or drugs or is unconscious, can't be obtained through threats or coercion. So someone can't be pressuring someone over and over again to say yes, and then if that person eventually does cave in and say yes, that's still no consent. Can be revoked at any time. So someone can change their mind at any time, and cannot be obtained if the perpetrator abuses a position of trust, power, or authority. So that might be a boss, a coach, someone that a respected member of the community or a faith leader, and if they're using that position to threaten you or convince or force someone to do something they don't want to do, that's not okay. So when we look at building a culture of consent and thinking about how it's everyone's responsibility, I encourage you to think about what role can you play in building a culture of consent? How can we create an environment at Victoria that is safe and respectful, and I think when you think about it, it's looking at ways that makes it safe for someone to say no. Sometimes people say, well, I didn't feel comfortable saying no, and when it's an environment where people feel that they can say no, that people are asking them for their consent, whether it's sexual activity or something else, where people know their boundaries and will respect a no, and they won't get upset if someone does say no to them. Those are kinds of things that we want when we're creating a culture of consent. And we're creating a safe and respectful place at Victoria. So some resources to think. If you're wanting to contact me or another coordinator at the center, there's 3 center locations and 3 coordinators. We're at 416-978-2266. You can reach someone pretty quickly if you call that number. It is checked during business hours, but off hours, we will check the voicemail occasionally and get back to you within 24 hours, if not sooner. The SVP Center at utoronto.ca, you'll reach myself or one of the other coordinators, and safety.utoronto.ca also has information and an online form that you can request an appointment or send some information to us. And we're at 702 Spadina Avenue, which would be closest for you, although people can, if they live in Scarborough or Mississauga and commute here, you can come and see us at the other locations as well. Some other campus and community resources so you're aware of. There's Community Safety Office, Campus Police, Health and Wellness. There's a whole bunch of services here at Victoria that are free and available for you. All these resources for the community are also free, and a lot of them are all of them are 24/7. And so thank you so much for listening to my presentation, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me or another coordinator at the center.
Okay, everybody, we're going to do the question and answer now. It won't take long. Please don't all walk out. And I'm not all that happy that everybody... I seriously turned around and saw another rant. Like 80 people get up and leave right before a conversation about sexual violence. I don't love that. Anyway, maybe everybody knows it all. That would be great.
Hello.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me now? Yes? Hello? Hello?
Yep, it's on.
It's on, okay. Hi, everybody. Okay, so we would like to have a little conversation about some of the things that might come up a little bit more frankly than we might otherwise have it with you. Something that happens to me often is that people will say to me, what happens in university? Why people, my friends, 40s and 50s, and faculty members and staff and people will say, what happens? Why are there these lineups? This is the best time of their life. They have all these choices, all their future ahead of them. It's fantastic. Why do you have all these people waiting outside? And I say, well, maybe you've just forgotten, but the difference, say the philosophers that we all love, between people and things is that people can make choices, and most of us think that's a good thing. But when you can make choices and you have a whole lot of choices in front of you, when you're picking your courses and dealing with finances and dealing with sex and life and wellness issues and all the things that you're faced with, it's hard. There are all kinds of different things you have to make decisions about all the time, and you can't just not decide, because not deciding is deciding. So you don't have that as an option. So you have a whole bunch of things that you're facing, and like it or not, you don't have a lot of tools. I have a ton of tools because I'm old, and so I've accumulated tools. And I have tools I'm happy to lend you, even though you don't want the tools. This is kind of like the tea thing. But my advice is sometimes a little like that. But it really is a time for you where all these fantastic things will happen. It is fantastic. Vic, let it be known. All of this other stuff aside, all of the sexual violence conversations and the mental health conversations and some of the other shit that sounds like it's kind of downery is true, but let it be known, Vic is a fantastic place, full of happy students, full of students who are here to help you. It's an enthusiastic, great place for all kinds of different personality types and all kinds of different kinds of people. So with that, it would be great if a few of you could ask us some questions, let us know your concerns, tell me anything that you'd like to know more about. We have a whole panel of people here, including now our learning strategist at the end, Megan, and we'd be happy to answer questions from you. Does anybody have any questions that they'd really like to ask? Because if you don't, you know I'm going to ask one. Yes. What's the most adventurous thing I've ever done? Wow! Who wants to answer that question? Angela? I see the microphone raising.
It depends on how you would define adventurous. I don't know. I did 3 plays in the span of 1 month this summer because I do theater. And I would not recommend it on anyone. Please don't ever do 3 things at once that has a deadline. That's not fun.
When I was in first year, I decided that I would get involved in a women's center and a crisis center and a shelter and did a whole bunch of stuff. And I did it not because something bad had happened to me in first year. And so I decided I would try to do something that was way out of my comfort zone because it was sort of political people and I wasn't really all that interested in all these political people and I didn't really have some banner over my head that made me want to change the world until I wanted my world changed, and then I decided that the world should be changed. And so I tried a few different things and I went out and worked in the women's center and I did all that stuff at the same time as I was doing philosophy. So I was kind of, the thing for me that was adventurous was trying to do something that I didn't feel exactly comfortable with, and I learned a ton from it.
We're all really boring.
If you got an answer, yes. Adventurous, like anything that you did, I think that it can be just something that makes you feel uncomfortable, like white jeans when it's cusp of maybe Labor Day is too late.
Well, I went cliff diving the others, last. I don't know if that's
Yeah, it is.
I don't know if we want this in the academic sense or just a life sense.
No, life sense is fine. Cliff diving is not on my list.
Yeah, that's me.
Other question?
Sorry, never go, here's actually something adventurous that cliff diving made me think of. Never go off the trail. I went off the trail twice, once off the Bruce Trail, and then once up the side of a waterfall. I just decided to climb up because I saw one of my friends climbing up, and because I'm a little bit heavier, rocks were falling underneath me, so at the end I was clutching onto the dirt with my hands. And then finally I got up, and then I decided to do something even worse, where we walked to the edge of the waterfall, so the waterfall was literally just falling under our feet, and then my friend tried to kick water down the waterfall, and so he was standing on one leg, at the edge of a waterfall. So please don't ever do that. Thanks.
This reminds me of Ellen. Ellen had a great thing. She was doing a convocation address. I was looking it up because a friend of mine was doing a convocation address for UBC, and we were looking at others, and Ellen said, no matter what you do when you go out there into the world, forge your own path. Do not follow the path of others. Unless you're lost in the woods and there's a path, then by all means follow it. I know, it was awesome. Is there a question back there? Yes. The therapy sessions? I don't know which therapy sessions we're talking about.
Oh, hey. Hi. So, sorry. I was looking, when I first got diagnosed, I was looking for places I would get free therapy. So some of the places I found, so the Factor Enwintosh School of Social Work, it's actually right beside, across from Varsity Stadium. So I believe they offer free, so you get to talk to a social work student, and I think you can get bi-weekly sessions. You just have to call them, so if you just sort of Google it, you should be able to find it. I also know that there's CAPS, which is Counseling and Psychological Services, that's now part of the Health and Wellness Center. I think you get 20 sessions there. And also, the place I go to now is the OISE Psychology Clinic. So you call this number. They offer free counseling for U of T students. You call their number, you leave a message, and then their intake person calls you back, and you're able to get free counseling and therapy sessions with the psychology students there. And the best thing about it is that it's weekly. So like you really get like to go there on the regular. And I found those 3 things very helpful.
All of those are good. So there are a couple of other things I'd like to add to what Angela has said. So Health and Wellness, which is the central service for the University of Toronto. Is this on? Oh. Which is the central service for the University of Toronto, does take students on a regular basis. They also have no longer got any cap, so you have unlimited visits during your undergraduate career. We also have an on-site counselor. We were the first college to have an on-site counselor, and had her for 1 day a week and then 3 days a week, and now we have her 5 days a week. She is in the Goldring Student Center in our office. It's completely private and confidential. There's absolutely no checking in with my office or anything like that. And her name is escaping me right now. Natalia. Everyone loves Natalia. She's awesome. And she was interesting. When we hired her, so sometimes I think that for university students, getting help is a little tricky because what's so-called normal and what's so-called healthy is a little different when you're in this demographic with this group of people. So I would have students who would come to see me and they'd have filled out a list with their GPs, and it would say, are you sleeping regularly? Do you drink more than once a week? Do you, all of this stuff. Do you stay up at night? Do you sleep? All these things that most university students don't do exactly perfectly. And so health and wellness within our demographic changes a little bit. So it's nice for people to have somebody who works specifically in the university who understands this group, and also somebody who does stuff from both a psychological perspective and a social work perspective. Natalia is both. She was trained in Russia in psychology and trained in social work here. So we are very, very lucky to have her here. So if you want somebody here, you can get set up with that. Also, I know it sometimes seems like a weird thing to do. I've been told it's daunting to come and knock on the door of the dean's office or the registrar's office and ask for help. But it might be that when I'm up on stage or when Yvette's up on stage, we're sitting here talking and giving you grand ideas and trying to make moving statements. But when you come to our door and you knock on the door and you say, I'm really struggling, it will be a private, calm, quiet, confidential conversation you have with us. And all of our staff will do the same thing. So please, please do. We are so happy and willing to help you through anything. It's not that it's going to be that horrible, right? It's going to be great, but it'll be new challenges. And so when you have those, if you want help, please ask us.
Kelly, can I add?
Yeah, of course, please.
Just one more thing I would add. As you got a sense, there are a range of services available to help, and any one of us can help match you up with the services. The other thing is that at the university we have something called accessibility services. If you have mental health issues or it could well be a physical disability, it's really important that you get registered with accessibility services. One of the great things that they can do is to arrange academic accommodations for you. So they assess you and they may say, this student may need time and a half on exams. They may need extensions on their papers due to whatever disability they have. So if you were receiving any similar accommodations in high school, I encourage you to register with accessibility services as soon as possible, because they get really busy and sometimes the intake can be a little slow. So if you register early, and I know, getting back to, I think, one of the comments from one of the panelists here, there are a lot of students we meet who come in and say, I'm starting a new chapter, it's all going to be great, I got those accommodations in high school, I'm not going to need them in university. My advice to you is to get the accommodations, and you can decide later if you need them or not.
Very well.
Very very well. Yes, I like that answer. We have a number of scholarships and bursaries. Bursaries are grants. They're non-repayable. You don't have to pay back for a bursary. Bursaries are really meant to help students who have a shortfall in their income. I know that, I think it was Angela who mentioned that, somebody mentioned that we give bursaries and you don't have to be an OSAP. Most of the students who receive bursaries are receiving some sort of financial aid because we know they've been assessed and they actually have financial need. But you can absolutely make a case as to why you might be in financial aid and need financial assistance. So for instance, we've had students who their family has run into some unexpected financial challenges. So their dad's business went bankrupt, or they got hurt and they broke their leg and now they have to take taxis to get everywhere. And so they've applied for bursaries. So we would absolutely consider that. If you think you're going to be in financial need, book an appointment with us in the registrar's office and we will try to help you with your bursary application as well as point you to other resources that might be of assistance.
So our center.
Someone offers you a microphone.
Our center doesn't specifically offer sexual self-defense classes because we want to recognize that it's not the fault of the person to prevent sexual violence from happening. It's actually up to the potential perpetrator or whoever that they take responsibility of it. But we definitely partner with different groups. So I know at UTM, Campus Police are doing a WENDO self-defense women's course, so I'm giving information about that and referrals to that. At St. George, I think there's something similar, but I don't want to say exactly athletics would offer. Yeah, so we can definitely look at different self-defense. If someone comes to me and says they're looking for self-defense classes, then I can definitely look into the community. Part of my role is to coordinate. So if someone's looking for self-defense or counseling, that I would be the one reaching out and doing all that legwork to find. So we can definitely find that for you. But we definitely take the perspective that while self-defense is great, and I've taken self-defense classes, so I think they're wonderful, but we don't want to do any kind of blaming that potentially would blame the victim for being assaulted.
We offer them at Vic. So if Dawn's often organize them. Yeah. Yes, Dawn?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So Dawn's often organize it, and also if you're interested, if you have a group of people you want to do, if you come to my office, I'll pay for it. There you go.
The center also has financial support for different programs, so we would definitely support if there was a group or if needed. So we definitely want to encourage people, if that's what they're looking for, self-defense classes can be really great.
Other questions?
What is an office or a club or an organization that you wish you had connected with in person? Or in your, imagining yourself in person?
I wish I'd done something more performative. I actually really liked music, and I did theater stuff, but I got. It's one thing to talk about, to be on stage and talk about things that you know. So debating and all that kind of stuff is one thing, but being more creative. I wish I'd done something like that, because later on in life, you don't have a lot of opportunities to try something like am I going to go to some, community? Like I have no time. I've got kids, I've got work, I've got blah blah, But there are some moments, like clubs and societies like that, where doing something just creative, I would have liked to do.
So in first year, I did varsity athletics, which was amazing. But I really wish that I had connected with the Women's Center at my university. And I know at U of T, because I did my master's at U of T, and the Women in Trans Center is fantastic. And I would definitely encourage anyone who is interested in that to take part in that.
I've done a lot of
Angela cannot do it.
probably like intramurals, because like, you know, with the VCC and also I know varsity intramurals, I've always done a lot of like leadership and like creative stuff that I kind of wish I did more sports stuff. And also volunteer for the SEC Center, the SEC. It's the Sexual Education Center. I think they take volunteers and they do a lot of really great work.
I wish I knew about all the drop-in classes at Hard House. I didn't know about those in first year, and they have so many like drop-in exercise classes, yoga, Zumba, like dance classes, and there's other like great like opportunities at Hard House. I think that's a really good hub for all things like involvement. So I would definitely check those out.
I actually did my undergraduate degree in another country, and unfortunately the array of clubs and societies was nothing to compare here to U of T. I did a little netball, but there wasn't very much other that you could do other than go into student government, and I wasn't interested in that at the time. So there's an important lesson for me, like when I see the kinds of options available to our new students, I wish that I had those options available to me, because there would be so many things I would have participated in, but unfortunately I didn't have that opportunity in my undergraduate studies.
It's a great question. I spent a lot of time working when I was an undergrad, and I studied part-time, so I was less involved than I would have liked to be, but found community with on-campus jobs, which was great. I wish I had taken advantage of some of the creative clubs at Hart House. I found out later that they had a film club and a camera club where you could actually borrow equipment and do your own creative projects, so I thought that was a pretty cool opportunity. Thanks.
Oh, it's completely confidential. In fact, when we in the registrar's office refer you to accessibility services, they won't even tell us details of your disability. The only information that's ever shared with anyone, and it's on a need-to-know basis, is what sort of academic accommodations you need. So you can be assured that when you meet with an advisor at Accessibility Services, they will not share this information with anybody about your personal situation, but they will prepare a letter that you can share with your instructors that say, here are the academic accommodations I need.
There's actually new legislation in Ontario that prohibits the disclosure of that information. Mm-hmm. So, rightly so, there's been a lot of disability and accessibility rights advocacy work going on, and so your professor might be told that you need certain accommodations, but they will not be told why.
Yeah, I can confirm as a student who has been registered with Accessibility Services that they're very good. It's very much like you're going to be partnered with a counselor, and sort of you let them know what's comfortable for you, and the letter that we get is pretty general, and it's very specific, so I don't have any problems so far with that.
And I would mention one more thing. I think it's about 40% of our student population is registered with Accessibility Services, so don't feel like you're the only person. And instructors are very comfortable, and they know well that there's always going to be some students in their class who require academic accommodations. So I don't think you need to be worried or embarrassed or nervous about asking for those accommodations. They expect these requests to be coming to them.
One other tiny thing is that the types of accommodations, like back in the day, the only accommodation that we really had in my experience, was extra time for exams. But the array of different kinds of accommodations is much greater now. So, you know, if you have problems with note-taking, they have note-takers. If you need a different space, there are all kinds of different kinds of accommodations. So it's not just a question of information, but also breadth. 2 minutes. Yes.
Hi, so if you would like a part-time job, we are now currently hiring ushers, so the lovely people in the white shirt and the black bottoms. If you want to apply, please send your resume and a cover letter to my boss, Julia Culpepper, who is the coordinator of the Isabel Bader Theater. Her email is j.culpepper@utoronto.ca, or you can just approach me afterwards. And it's also like the job schedules around you, so you let her know what your availability is. And so, yeah, it's a really great part-time position. Yeah, very flexible.
If you're interested in those, you can also come by our office and we can connect you with that and other jobs at Vic.
Okay, so the ushers are minimum wage. I think currently it's 12 or 11. It's going to increase, obviously, in January. I'm a shift captain, so I have a managerial position, so my wage is a little bit higher.
So she makes more money. You can, if you have other questions about that specific thing, you can ask Angela when we're done.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Okay, let me try to repeat it if I heard correctly. You asked, can we explain the insurance that you get billed for that you see on your ACORN invoice? Is that correct? I believe the insurance you're referring to is the UTSU, the Student Association insurance program. There is a lot to know. The best advice I could give to you, and in the interest of time, I'm just going to say, if you go to their website, which I think is www.utsu.ca, maybe, and have a look. If there's anything on there that's not clear, please call them, or you're welcome to come to us at the Registrar's office. We have a number of little pamphlets about what's included and what's not included, and things like if you have coverage through your family, you can opt out and so forth. So feel free to talk to us offline.
UTSU is the University of Toronto Students Association.
Thank you, Kelly.
Sorry. One common question that I get from students about that coverage is that if you opt out, so some students who have additional coverage, you are still eligible to use U of T services like the health center and like health and wellness here at U of T. That is a common misconception, so I just want to make sure that you know that if you opt out of that insurance, you're still eligible for U of T services, okay? Just clarifying that.
Yeah, it's only additional insurance for off-campus resources. Okay, one more question I think we have time for, and then we will bid you adieu. Do you like my adieu? Up where? Yes.
What are some clubs or places around Vic that students can go to if they're lonely or looking for community?
Do you want to do that?
Sure. I would start with, well, since it's Frosh Week, I would start with going to, I believe there's still going to be a Vic-wide clubs fair that you can check out. They'll have all the different clubs and activities available throughout the school year in one little spot. But if you miss that, then I would start with the Goldring Student Center because there are so many different things happening there. There's, as you've heard, ViewSac. We have Vic Exposure, which is our camera and photography club. They have the VCAA, which is our athletic association. They have the Strand, the student newspaper. So there's so many different things happening there. Another hub on campus, I would say, would be Old Vic, because we have caffeines. And then also, if you ask anyone who's a Don or commuter Don, is a great way to get more information about that. But yeah.
And I just want to add a new one, the newest one, opportunity for you to create, to be part of a community is through your transition mentors. I know many of you were in your groups this morning, right? And you will continue to meet with your mentors for the first 5 weeks and monthly thereafter, so that's a great opportunity to attend events on campus and have someone who's connected to you be there for you as well.
We are out of time. Have a fantastic week.
Okay.
Are William and Emma here? Emma?
What a great idea.
William?
Yeah, I like them.
Where's Emma?
Because like it connects them for the entire year. Instead, that's one of my things about Rosh. I wish they had them when I was in first year.
What's the difference between transition